When most people hear independent film, they picture low budget, no budget film made by a young filmmaker with whatever camera that they have accessible to. But independent doesn't just mean that. It also means something more specific about where the money comes from.
There's really two different types of films in the modern era of filmmaking. You got studio films and you've got independent films. And in general, studio films tend to be bigger budget. Independent films tend to be smaller budget. But in reality, you could have a $100 million independent film if you got a rich friend to invest in it.
I think I found that the most interesting in all of the research that I've been doing is most of these films take sometimes even decades to be made. And it's not because they weren't great ideas, but I do think that there is a certain level of timing be in place as well.
No idea ever dies. There's always a place to put the idea that might not be ready today. And you just sort of put it on the shelf and maybe you can fire it back up in 3 years. You got to update some of the references. You got to make it a little hipper. I think that's an important piece of wisdom as an independent creator is have many things that you're interested in making.
Everybody who wants to make a movie eventually hits the same wall. The idea is there, the script might be there, and the passion is definitely there. But then somebody asks, okay, who's paying for it? Today on the Indie Playbook, how the hell do you get your movie financed?
Lately, Hollywood's been in a state of crisis. Film production has gone way down, and work has dried up for myself and for my colleagues.
My wife and I did the thing that any logical person would do in that situation.
I put my house on the line and I launched my own production company to make movies called Flashback Pictures.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Indie Playbook. I guess I should be welcoming myself back, though, because you guys had a great week without me.
Welcome back, Grace.
But it wasn't because you were gone. It was, we missed you dearly.
You guys were missed too. I miss chatting. I miss chatting about all things indie film.
But do you really, Grace? Do you really miss talking about how to get a film produced?
Listen, it's the burning question of the week. How do we get an indie film financed? Because we are currently in the thick of trying to close our financing gap for time windows, and excited to be talking from real experience and also just, it's the state of the industry right now. How do we make our, future obsession, future back rooms? How do we help others make the same thing, make the same move? So I'm excited to chat with you guys about that today.
Yes, but before we dive into that, we got to give our shout out to Miss Grace, who was part of the team that put together the FIFA World Cup halftime show, first ever.
First ever.
That was awesome.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
You pretty much sang Madonna's lip sync the whole time. I think that was what you really were up to. I'm impressed, Grace.
What a massive, massive production that was. Just insane. I mean, how do you even start to go about that? I just have no idea.
I mean, I'm so impressed by the producers of the show, Global Citizen, Done and Dusted, Diversified Production Services, because the role that I played working with talent was super specific. So I, day in, day out working with talent, trying to make sure that everybody is hitting their marks in the right place at the right time. But the complexity of all of these superstar giant artists that these different producer entities had to deal with was beyond me. And I'm so impressed that they were able to not only put the show together, but appeal to this global audience. I think we underestimate how much goes into a show like that, not just the production value and succeeding in making the show, but also realizing that there are, advertising giants and vested interests that really have to be appeased in this process. And so yeah, kudos to everybody involved. I mean, it was thousands and thousands of folks. So I'm just a piece of the puzzle.
Such a wide range of artists. It's pretty cool to see at such a high level how you appeal to a broad worldwide audience, like with a single event and a single 10-minute time span.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you guys enjoyed because, there's a lot of opinions out there in the world.
Everyone's got opinions. And
Yes.
good conspiracy theories about the game itself. And
Oh, yeah.
it was a juicy final for many, many reasons. So we give you all the credit, of course. You're basically Messi and Madonna all in one.
Yes. I'll take the credit.
With a sprinkle of BTS. Man, BTS, those guys
dude.
got it,
They are pros. I will say that. And I'll leave it there. They
And
are
their
super
faces are just so perfect. I mean,
pros. I want to achieve that level of perfect.
yes.
I will just say I can't help but to think about draw the parallels from making an indie film and making a production the size of the World Cup, because everything, I mean, it's all the same. It's just a different scale, right? It's how do you make sure that all the pieces work together? How do you get all of the financing and the people in play? Mind you, all of these artists who performed at the World Cup halftime show were not paid. They donated their time for the sake of global education, a global education fund. And those are all mechanics that are in play when you're trying to get something that scale accomplished. And the same could be said about an independent film, right? You got very minimal, low or no budget, and you're trying to ensure that you put together the best package so that it can appeal to not only the folks who will finance it, but the folks who will then go out and see your movie or see your movie at home, depending on the medium that it gets released on. So before we get into the mechanics, can you just kill one myth right away? When most people hear independent film, they picture a low budget, no budget film made by, a young filmmaker with whatever camera that they have accessible to. But independent doesn't just mean that. It also means something more specific about where the money comes from, right? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, there's really two different types of films in the modern era of filmmaking. You got studio films and you've got independent films. And in general, studio films tend to be bigger budget, independent films tend to be smaller budget. But in reality, you could have a $100 million independent film if you got a rich friend to invest in it. It doesn't necessarily mean that an independent film is going to be low budget. A studio film is going to be made by one of the major studios out there, a Sony, a Paramount, a Warner Brothers, a Netflix, something like that. And it usually means that there are shareholders that have a stake in those companies. So the studio at the end of the day has to appease the shareholders.
Definitely. And thinking about how an independent film gets made, even at the scale of $100 million, is just, it's sort of, we'll break this down like the piecemealing of the financing versus it all coming from this one source who has the power to fund something of that scale.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, with an independent film, it could be financed as simply as one person writing one paycheck, or it could be funding coming in from, 10 different sources. And that's exactly what we're going through right now with Time Windows, where we have a piece of the puzzle taken care of with the California tax credit, but we're also looking for other ways that we can bridge that gap.
And Dom, you brought something interesting up that I think can make this relative to our audience when we were prepping for this episode, but you talked about how, Miramax was independent, how there's these big names that we think, oh yeah, they must have gotten studio money because their movies are giant and we still talk about them, but they actually were independent. Can you talk about a little bit of that, like the perception of what's independent versus what's a studio film?
Yeah, I think in the old days, there were independent producers that would get financing from independent investors, financial institutions that would invest in films specifically, and they would independently put movies together and release them. And then studios would acquire them at a certain point if they were good, showed promise, etc. And then at a certain point, your independent film company that produces films independently could become a studio if it has enough success over time. And I think I use the example of a Miramax from the 90s. I mean, they were not a studio, they were an independent producer that produced films, and then they kind of became a mini studio because they had so much success. They were able to access financing. And I don't know if they ever actually got acquired or not by an actual studio, but you will see studios then kind of buy up or invest in small independent film producers to kind of become part of the studio system at that point. So the studios just buy them because they're competition and now they want to own it. So I think as it pertains to Flashback Pictures, it's an independent film producer now, but hopefully over time, after a series of positive successes in the film producing world, then it can kind of become a mini studio and potentially get acquired by a bigger studio. This, I think, obviously takes, producing a lot of films over time. But that could be a goal. I don't know. Maybe. Daniel, you want to sell the Warner Brothers who doesn't exist? You be the next Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the vast majority of the people, interested in making films out there, the indie route is going to be the way to go for now. And understanding how the different financing structures work within an independent film is actually a really important as you take off on this journey. So I think in this episode, it's a good opportunity for us to kind of break down and make it as digestible as possible what these different mechanisms are.
I think what's coming up for me is, say, I'm a producer with none of those contacts. I have a great idea, or I'm attached to a project with a great idea. I would love for you both to just be honest, like, where do you start? I think a lot about Dom's floor that he mentioned to us of it being create something. Don't let the independent film be your first target. So yeah, I would love to just hear about like, what is the floor for somebody who's just starting, doesn't have the contacts for, financing their first $1 million feature?
The great thing about right now is that technology has advanced to a point where the playing field has been leveled as far as capturing material that looks professional. So with your phone, you could go out there and create something that you could throw in a theater and it'll look good. So I think that barrier has been knocked over already. Then at that point, it's like, do you have a good idea? What's your idea? And who can you get to support it? You probably need somebody to put in front of the camera. You probably need a location. I think a great starting point is just taking inventory of the network that you have, whether it's friends, colleagues that are also interested in it. Do you have access to, like an animal shelter? Do you have access to like an after school program?
No pets, no kids, Daniel. Strike, you're out.
I'm like, God, these are all the only things I can think of. This is 40, guys.
Does your friend own a small helicopter company? You could borrow some helicopters. Yeah. We're talking about an office with posters. If you have that, you can make an office comedy. Everyone can relate. But yes, we get it. What about an empty animal shelter where you're trying to get your passion off the ground? It's like rehabilitating like lost pups, but you got no dogs yet. So you're trying to get the dogs. And it's about someone and now you're stealing dogs, and it's two guys. Or guy and a girl.
We're stock full of ideas. Indie Playbook, man.
The ideas are no problem. Ideas are not the issue. It's the money. It's getting someone to give you money to make your idea. That's the part that's the challenge in this business. But I'm liking this dog kennel show.
Sounds like a Strays spinoff.
Oh, what was Strays? Yeah, that's
Marshawn Lynch was in it, so I had to watch it.
Was it a movie, TV show? Yeah.
It was a movie.
It's like how many of the things that you can get that producers just will say that I will not do this job. Kids, animals, nights, right? So like vampire dogs from LA, like you probably don't want to be on that show.
Yeah. That's you just tripled your budget, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But to bring it into the independent filmmaking conversation, a potential investor or even producer might consider is not how well the script is written or even who you are. It's is this producible with the money you say you want to spend in a realistic way? And if it's not, it makes you look naive probably, and it gives them an automatic reason to say no thanks. And they've got 100 scripts coming at them a day, so if not more. So it's an easy, they're almost looking for a no. So if you load it with all these reasons for them to say no, then they will. So don't do that.
It's true. I mean, it is all in the packaging. I think that's probably an episode in of itself. How do you package your project? How do you actually pitch the project? But for the sake of this conversation being about financing and how do you get your independent film finance, I think that we want to just, keep it to, some of the logical points that we've come up with that, even I'll just backtrack a little bit from when I first met Daniel in our first conversation, and he was talking about these 3 films that he wanted to produce, and knowing that we weren't calling it this at the time, but it was sort of like a step-up model where it was a small budget, then the earnings from one film could then fund another film, and knowing that our anchor project was this big studio project, hypothetically, this big studio project that had a name attached to it. And so knowing that you're not going to right off the bat make your, Stephen Curry biopic movie. You're going to start somewhere to eventually lead to a proof of concept that you can produce a movie of that scale, right? Because this was a conversation that I had with you, Daniel, this is a good place for you to sort of chime in on, what we're now calling the step-up model and why we started with Pizza Guys versus Vampires as sort of our proof of concept as a company, and where do we see that sort of leading us into time windows and beyond.
I think the takeaway really is flexibility. You and I had that first meeting. Pizza Guys was not on our radar at all. It was 3 completely different movies. And so I think one of the takeaways here is that we knew that we needed a low budget project to be the start point. We spent a lot of time working and developing a project that didn't make it past the script stage to the point where we realized this is not the project to start off with. It's going to be really hard to get this financed. It's going to be really hard to execute this. So meanwhile, we saw the momentum really gaining on vertical microdramas, and we came up with the concept for Pizza Guys versus Vampires just in a conversation over coffee, realizing that this is an even better entry point for us because it's not going to require as much capital up front. It was just $45,000 versus, we wanted to have a $1 million movie to start with. I think your first idea may not be the one that you get to make right away or that's easy to make right away, and you can still keep it on your list, but keep the door open to that first project being something that you even maybe not your idea at all. Maybe it's somebody else's idea that they're ready to get the money for, and you can still direct it or you can still help them write it or, whatever your passion may be. There's a tendency for folks to get very hyper-focused on a singular project. And as a filmmaker, part of what makes us filmmakers is that we do this. This is our life, and we're going to be doing countless projects, and they all mean something to us when they're working on them or afterwards. So yeah, I think the stackable model is good, but also being open to those ideas fluctuating.
We used to have these conversations all the time, Daniel. You would call me with a project years ago, and one of the things I said early on was like, it's a good idea. It might not happen tomorrow to have 20 ideas ready to go, because you never know which one's going to be ready to go first. No idea ever dies. There's always a place to put the idea that might not be ready today, and you just sort of put it on the shelf, and maybe you can fire it back up in 3 years. You got to update some of the references. You got to make it a little hipper. But yes, I think that's a important piece of wisdom as an independent creator, is have many things that you're interested in making.
Flashback Golden Nugget.
I think I found that the most interesting in all of the research that I've been doing is most of these films take sometimes even decades to be made. And it's not because they weren't great ideas, but I do think that there is a certain level of timing be in place as well. So when you're talking to, film financiers or just, folks that are interested in financing film, not specifically people who work in the business, but knowing that they also have their ear to what's happening in the industry and in the world as well, and seeing like which story is most fitting for the time. So that, goes to both of your points, is like being adaptable, and as we all are producers in this industry, learning how to pivot and learning how to shift, with what we're learning as we go, is a huge part of the financing conversation, because we could be very excited and the script can be super tight, but if the timing isn't right for it, then we're sort of fighting an uphill battle when you could use that same energy to make something else that you're excited about, and the audience will be excited about it as well. So I think that's a really good point to make.
And that's why you tend to see a lot of the same kinds of, let's just say, television shows or even movies get made, because they're making broad gambles on things that are already proven. You see a lot of cop shows, see a lot of legal procedurals, you see a lot of office workplace shows, a lot of family comedies or dramas, because those are ideas everybody kind of already gets. And they go, yeah, I get it. Okay, I'll weigh in here. And so when they're making a financial gamble on making a project, there's less risk theoretically in things that are already proven. So when it comes to independent film on our side right now, I mean, where part of this conversation started was like, we had a great book to start from, but it's kids, adventure. It's a little bit of like mystery and scary spookiness. And then we kind of keyed in on this idea of like Halloween as a genre movie, because there just aren't that many Halloween movies. And I've got little kids and we only watch the same Halloween movie every year versus Christmas. There's 100 Christmas movies. So we're kind of using some mathematics, loosely, to try to front load all these things that somebody can relate to and go, oh, I like a kid adventure story. I like a spook fest. I like a Halloween romp. Cool. So all these little elements might get somebody to buy in and pay attention. And then on top of all that stuff, it's got to be really good. The characters have to be great, and the story has to be fun. And we're going to shoot it on an iPhone. No, we'll use real cameras probably, but it doesn't even have to look good, to be honest. Like, it just has to look fine.
Tom Hanks wrote this book called The Making of Another Major Motion Picture Masterpiece. It's a fictional novel, but it's based on a film director. He's an older guy that gets tasked to make like a superhero movie. And it's really quite good. But one of the points that Hanks makes in writing the book is that the character always gets angry when somebody says, that movie was terrible or that movie was really bad. Because even the really bad movies, it's a miracle that they got made at all. And the fact that somebody along the way was fighting for this movie to be made and spent years of their life to get it to the point where it's at right now. And you think about how easy it is to get a no, how many different ways there are to get a no, and how few ways there are to get a yes. And so I think that's, that's a bit of the magic of the film industry as well, is it's like when you actually have success with getting something to the finish line, that's something to be proud of.
And to shit on my point earlier from 10 seconds ago, making a broad concept like a Marvel movie, like, because we talked about this in one of our last episodes, but you don't want to just make your concept broad that everybody buys in. Like, that obviously doesn't always work either. It's making a specifically different, special, unique movie. There's almost like a trick you're pulling on the financiers. You're kind of saying like, this is a broad movie that everyone will go see. But then when it comes to the making part of it, it has to be like special, unique, and different enough that everyone goes, oh, I thought this was just a broad movie, but actually this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. So depending on who your audience is in the moment, if it's a financier or a banker who's just looking for low risk, or if it's a kid who's looking for the greatest movie of all time, your sales pitch might fluctuate depending on the audience. That's something you learn over time in this industry as somebody who's creates content and as a writer and a creator. You're a salesman first and foremost. You're selling an idea to people, so they have to understand it and buy into it. And depending on who you're selling to, your pitch can shift a little this way or that way.
Yeah.
And we will go through that. We will pitch investors, and it'll be like numbers, nuts and bolts, this many days, this cost, this is how we can financially pull it off. And then we might go pitch actors, and it'll be more magic, and it'll, we'll have to wear costumes and like put on cool clothes, and it'll be like a different vibe of a pitch. It's when I bust out the artistic glasses with no lenses.
With no lenses is great.
You got
What about the slinky eyeball ones?
those are guaranteed sale every time.
Great. I'll make sure to keep those in my back pocket.
Just in case if the meeting's going flat, you can bust those out and guarantee the sale. Sold in the room. I used to labor over my pitch outfits, just not to be, we can cut this out, but you'd go into these, you're like, how should a comedy writer look today? Because they're buying an idea of what you are as well as the actual thing. And so you don't wear a suit, you don't look like some lawyer. That's BS. So there's a lot of nuance into the how and what you pitch. That's a whole nother classroom lecture.
That'll be episode 17, what to wear to your movie pitch.
Investor pitch.
People judge. They're judging everything. They go, cool slinky glasses. I like this guy. This guy gets comedy.
So we made, our low budget, no budget thing, Pizza Guys versus Vampires. Now we're ready for our next step up, our $1 million feature. How exactly do we get that thing financed? What are the mechanics? Who are we talking to? Daniel, can you break it down for us?
Yeah. So again, we're talking about independent financing as opposed to studio financing. But like with independent financing, we've broken it down into 10 different options for where you can get money from. Number 1, friends and family. Number 2, private equity, high net worth individuals. Number 3, tax credits. Number 4, grants and fellowships. Number 5, 501c3 fiscal organizations. Number 6, brand integrations. Number 7, pre-sales. Number 8, gap financing. Number 9, crowdfunding. And number 10, soft money. Friends and family, like obviously that's a start point for independent financing. Nobody really wants to go and beg for money from their friends. So that's not always the best bet, but maybe you got that rich uncle or family member that believes in your vision.
Mm-hmm.
Removed from that is private equity, high net worth individuals. So that's folks that may not be your direct friends or family, but people that you're connected through other friends, or and these are folks that you would probably have to present some sort of a pitch to as to why they would support you and your film. Then there's tax credits. So this is a big one, and there's a lot of states and countries out there that try to stimulate their economies by providing film-based tax credits to productions. And it incentivizes you to come shoot in their place, and you get money back after you spend a certain amount of money. There's a huge range of what types of structures these are. For us, we studied a lot about the US-based tax credits, and we're based in California. And for a while, the California tax credit was not really achievable at all for independents. There was a very small pool of money and a lot of people that were applying to it. And also the credit itself wasn't that significant. It was maybe 20%, 25%. So that's why you started to see a lot of these film productions go out of state, because places like Georgia or New Jersey or New Mexico were offering these big 35, 40, 45% tax credits, and even tax credits on things like actors and writers and producers. To counteract the exodus of production, California doubled the tax credit in the state of California, and they also opened up a bigger pool of money for independent films. So now there's a specific amount of money that's earmarked for films that are sub $10 million. So your film has to be $1 million to $10 million in California, but there is money to be had from tax credits up to 35% in California, which is great.
Why would an independent film chase a tax credit? Like, say you can make your film for, using California as an example, you can make your film for $250,000 because you can get really scrappy with it. But you decide to scale your budget up to $1 million to apply into a program so you qualify for the program. Why is an independent film chasing a tax credit at that scale? What can you do with your tax credit?
In general, the way the tax credit is structured, you spend X number of dollars, you get X percentage back at the end. There is also an avenue where you can monetize the tax credit. So you can take that tax credit and say you got a tax credit that's worth $300,000 from the state of California. You could take that to a bank and you can borrow against that up to, say, 85%. And that can be money that can actually help you make your film. The rollout structure of how these are monetized is different, but there is a world where you can get a tax credit and use that as your budget to make your project.
Can we break that down a little bit? Because in our case, at $1 million, our tax credit is roughly $300,000, but we have to have $1 million and spend $1 million to get 300 back. For the listeners, not me at all, the listeners. But in an independent film that's got a low budget like ours, we could really use that 300 now versus later. So what you're talking about is selling this piece of paper from the state, this promise for that much money, to a bank at a reduced rate because they needed to take their cut. They got to make money on it. And then we get that money now. So now we have $300,000 to spend today versus going to get the full $1 million today. So it can, in our case, become a third or roughly a third of a budget. And that can be extremely helpful when you're trying to put together financing, because then you can go to a financier and say, we're already a third of the way there, bro. All we need is 2/3. We don't even need you, even though we really need you. It gives you more leverage in the ask portion of the process, which, going through this was news to me. That's how it worked. I never really looked into it before, but it makes sense. And now all you people know who didn't know. Me, I didn't know.
Another takeaway here is the first money in is always the hardest to get. And nobody wants to be that first dollar in. And theoretically, you're not supposed to say that your tax credit is your first dollar in, but it definitely bridges the gap. It reduces the risk on the investor side and concentrate on getting those dollars wherever you can.
It's like the Pete Davidson financing model for people to understand. Like when he started dating Ariana Grande, every other woman who was very attractive was like, oh, shit, Pete's on the table? He became very dateable.
The stock went up.
His stock went up. Now, is he the most attractive guy in the world? I don't know. But all of a sudden, the most attractive women in the world were interested in him because he wasn't penniless. He had the first money in. He had that cash in his pocket, that tax credit. So we're just trying to do what Pete did.
That can be 11 for getting your film financed is date a supermodel.
Date Ariana Grande.
It works.
It all started with the tax credit. That's what I'm saying.
It feels really boring to go back into 501c3s and grants and fellowships now. But why don't we talk about brand integrations? That's more fun. So this is one of the trends that we've seen more recently, which is that a lot of brands are shifting into this market of how do they reach people now? I mean, a lot of people are on their phones. What are people watching? What types of content are they watching? Brands are really starting to infiltrate every aspect of entertainment now. In the microdrama space, I can't tell you how many microdramas are getting fully financed by brand partnerships at this point. So the takeaway here is that if you've got any connections to folks that work at a brand or a clothing company or something along those lines, and this could also play into what I was talking about earlier, where maybe it's not your original idea that you're looking at here, but maybe your first project is coming up with a brand integration for a brand and they're going to finance it. And this is how you can build your repertoire as a director, a producer, writer, whatever it is. But this can be your first project. And so I think now is a great time. A lot of these places are receptive to hearing new ways that they can reach their customers, especially if you can figure out a way to leverage, big social media accounts, et cetera.
I love this conversation because I believe in it so much. I don't think it's that simple to call up Domino's Pizza and say, let's make a movie, because there's a big corporation and
we
they've
tried
got a brand.
It didn't work.
And it might not be dead. It's still Domino's. If you're out there and listening, we want y'all, let's make a pizza show about vampires. But if you've ever worked in advertising and understand how much money goes into making a 30-second commercial, it's arguably way more than making $1 million independent film. So the argument is, well, instead of spending $5 million on a 30-second spot that nobody will watch and everyone will like mute, maybe spend $1 million on a thing that is layered in a million ways with your product. And it's an interesting story. It's not that simple. There's challenges with getting a brand to like give their brand over to you in a creative way that still allows you to keep your artistic vision intact. You're going to see more and more and more of these kinds of projects as the studio system has become more averse to spending money willy-nilly. You know, you have, I think Chick-fil-A launched like a online series channel.
Content studio.
I don't know how it's going specifically, but I love the idea.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, and I haven't seen the Chick-fil-A channel, but the interesting thing from what I hear is that it's not a bunch of people eating chicken, but it's just family-based content. And so I think you're seeing that brands don't need to be as in your face as they used to, like double mint gum, you know. It's more like, what's the ethos of your company?
The brand instinct is to stick the double mint gum in your face and say, it's good, eat it. It's like, we get it. But what our gum company is really about is water skiing with twins. Remember that, you know, or an active lifestyle or whatever the brand ethos ends up being. So if it's about socializing in the outdoors with your best friends, and that's what's important to us as a brand, and we also eat a little bit of gum, then your content is reflective of that brand ethos. And I think that's a great idea, and it's simple enough to understand.
For me, demystifying ways of getting financing is pre-sales and gap financing. I am still wrapping my head around those things, but curious if either of you have like a real succinct way of explaining what those two things are, and I think are really important for independent film financing.
Pre-sales is a big one, and usually it means you attach some sort of a name actor to your project. They have a certain reach in a foreign country, and you can go to international distributor and you can sell the rights to your film being distributed in that country. And sometimes places will pay money up front. That's more of a rare occurrence, but you're basically selling their rights to your project in their country.
Yeah, so the world is separated into regions. It's like the mafia. Those regions have the right to show that movie or that entity. And so you can go to them with Keanu Reeves and say, Keanu Reeves is worth this much money, give or take, and they'll pay you for an actor and a package up front-ish. And so you can take that money and use it for your project, which to me is, we just got to get Keanu and then we're good to go.
I'm going to take that, what you just said verbatim, I'm going to animate it, and it's going to be awesome.
Oh, God, I thought it was not awesome, but I'll take it.
It only comes second to the Pete Davidson conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we have to explain things to people in ways they understand, you know?
Absolutely.
Haven't you ever been a third grade teacher, Grace? You got to connect where the people are.
That's sort of a really important like key component, because so you sell the rights to a certain territory for your film to be shown there or to be distributed there, and you use that money from that pre-sale to use for production. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, and you're not always able to use that money for production. Sometimes they're just guaranteeing a certain amount, regardless of what their take is, and that money might come later after they get paid out. So I think there's certain deals where they, you know, the more rare ones are the ones where that will be money you can actually use to make the movie. The more common ones, I think, are the ones where it's a minimum guarantee that you get afterwards.
But it allows you to go into debt with a payback structure built in. So you're saying, I'm going $3 million into debt, but I have $4 million worth of payback once we complete this movie. So my debt is not that risky anymore because I already have the money. I just have to borrow it for a little while and then I'll get it back.
And that's where the gap financing comes in. And that's just really a term that means whatever remaining amount between what you have and what you need, that's your gap. And that can be filled any number of ways. There are banks that specifically do loans against gaps, but usually it needs to be, it can't be like, I have $1 and my movie's $1 million. I need a gap loan. They're probably not going to do that. But if you can demonstrate that you actually have a significant portion of your budget already secured, you can go to a bank and loan against that gap.
Yeah, you want to. And then I think to the package side of the conversation, you want your package to be as easy to loan to as possible. That means piece of talent. That's an actor. That means a director. That means a company with some proven success. What are your magical wands that you have that's going to guarantee success and minimize risk? I think part of what Flashback has done and is doing is building a reputation for producing quality material at a price that will generate a return on investment.
But when? When?
But when?
I think we might have gotten our first $500 actually yesterday.
Woo!
And the Canadian Vertical Film Festival, Pizza Guys vs. Vampires, just won Best Vertical Series. I saw somewhere that there was a $500 cash prize. I'm not going to hold you to it, CVV, if you guys pivoted off of that. But I will say, if that's the case, we just got our first 500. So
we're reinvesting.
Yes.
And we'll work with any pizza company, not just Domino's. I mean, Papa John's, DiGiorno. We could do a whole frozen storyline.
Papa Murphy's? Is that a Bay thing?
It was everywhere, but I just saw an article that they're closing like 1,200 stores or something.
Oh, come
So,
on. Papa Murphy's.
Too many papas in the pizza biz.
They need a microdrama. Get the kids into it again.
God, I mean, kids watch vertical stuff. Spend $100,000, like make a thing. Compared to an ad, it's practically free.
Let's go, Little Caesars.
Ooh, that would be a dream come true.
Pizza.
Greatest catchphrase of
Ever.
all time.
The final two pieces of raising money for your movie, crowdfunding and soft money. Crowdfunding, you all know about. It's those random Instagram messages you get, Kickstarter, Seed and Spark. These are legitimate avenues. I've also heard that Seed and Spark does more like creator partnerships, and I'm exploring these right now, actually. Although I have a hard time just doing this blast to friends, so it's not my preferred method. And then finally, like soft money. Soft money just really means anything that's not like a cash payment. You're getting value from somebody for something. Somebody could donate equipment. Somebody could donate their location. Really anything that doesn't equate to an actual piece of currency, but carries value and reduces the cost of your production.
Basically money you don't have to give back, or nobody is owed that money.
Is it ways to reduce your spend? So you'll see people donate a new cool energy drink because they just want the kind of marketing of people trying a product. As for your catering, so you're not spending $2,000 on drinks, somebody might give it to you for free. So that's not money you get, but it's money you don't have to spend in a certain direction.
Soft money usually is reducing your budget as opposed to paying for your budget,
Right, reducing, yeah.
For time windows, we're working on a partnership with Arri Cameras after the Emerging Cinematographer program that I received an award a few months back. But part of the prize package for that was an Arri camera package. So we're working on securing an Area 35 package for time windows, which would be fantastic. And that would also reduce some of our budget.
How much would that cost to a regular schmo like me? I mean, roughly speak, for a 30-day project or 25-day project.
At one point, I feel like it would have been upwards of like 60 grand, something like that. I don't think that it's that expensive any longer. I think rental houses have had to reduce their costs or their prices because of the market. It's a problem. And I do think that a lot of the more premier companies are struggling because of the fact that technology has become so good. Your mirrorless cameras, your phones, and everything is competing with these cinema level cameras. It doesn't make sense for a production to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on camera equipment anymore. So I think that, continues to be a challenge. But I would say, like, for the purposes of time windows, I think it will save us tens of thousands of dollars.
Do you know the Panasonic Lumix GH4, GH5, that camera series? They're it's a mirrorless camera. They cost about $2,000. Magellan was shot on the Panasonic GH7. They probably had 6 of them, but at $2,000 a pop, you own them. Each package built out with the lens probably costs $4,000 or something. I mean, you could do it on 3 of those And those are like, that's probably more than most people need. But they did a real feature film that was in theaters with these cameras. And that camera in particular, a lot of people say how great it is for cinema quality. And it's a small little mirrorless camera. Like, it's got it all. And it shoots beautiful images. And I stay up at night, look at all the new cool mirrorless camera. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. I need to get that. I'm like, I don't really need any of it, but I like the way they look. It's all right there. So yeah, it is an interesting point, Daniel, about like how the kind of big camera companies are going to survive in a world where there's just not that many people using them as much as they used to. And it's kind of sad, but I guess you have to adapt in some way.
You know, for big camera companies, it probably means attaching your brand name to more of a consumer type camera. And I don't know, it's a challenge because I know that for some of these companies, they spend a lot of money getting their hardware, like the research that goes into the hardware that makes their chip, the color rendering of their chip is so accurate that out of the camera, you hit the button and it looks perfect. You can't really get that chip into a consumer level camera. That's where the challenge can be. It's like, well, how do you attach your name to this thing if you can't really get the thing in there that actually makes it what it is?
Which brings us to the Odyssey and Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
oh
or just,
my gosh.
Or just get
Don't
a
get me started.
70 millimeter camera.
Did you see the 60 minutes they did on the edit and all that stuff? I mean, they edit at Technicolor. It's awesome. But if only one guy uses it every couple of years, like how does that? You don't want it to go away, but also there's no economy to keep it. It's a strange predicament. I haven't seen it yet. It looks fantastic from what I can tell. I'm sure it's going to be cool. It was an experience worth paying more for and seeing. And you wish there was one of those or two of those movies a year that you could go and.
And there's only one IMAX theater in the Bay Area, right? It's just the Metreon?
Two.
Oh, where's the other one?
There's one in Dublin.
Make going to the movies something that you can't do at your house, I think is.
It's got to be an experience. Clearly, Grace had an experience.
I watched it in 40X. I will just say that.
So like the chairs are moving and stuff?
And water is like, you're like in the boat.
Oh, damn.
It's
what?
Really cool.
I didn't even know I didn't even know that was a thing. Like water sprays you and cologne comes out and all the wine gets.
No, I'm not even like it. Yes.
That's cool.
All senses.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. I was like, do I need that? And then afterwards I like went into this is the last thing I'll say. I went into the IMAX theater to just see like what's the difference between that and that. And it's just more screen. You know what I mean? Like the IMAX 70 millimeter is just more screen. But the 40X is like, for a movie like this, feels like the experience to have.
It was either or. You can't do IMAX and 40X.
Yeah, it's different. Different experiences.
Gotcha.
Different screens. Dom, you have a rich, opinionated friend who's offering to fully finance your film, but wants to be on set and make creative decisions. Do you take the money?
Yes.
There was no hesitation on that one.
Absolutely.
You have to make a shadow set that he thinks he's participating in, but it's not even real. And then you're over there making the movie and he's over here, he's like, "Whoa, try this. Do it more like this." And then he's happy, you're happy.
That's actually true. They do that on the big movies too.
They do. Wow. Okay. Which leads me to, what's your set story of the week, Daniel?
I mean, in the spirit of the new Spider-Man movie, let's go back to Amazing Spider-Man again. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the stunt team on Amazing Spider-Man, because what was interesting to me is that there were 3 primary stunt doubles for Andrew Garfield on Amazing Spider-Man. Each of them had their own specialty. So one of them was great for the wire work. One of them was great for fighting. And then one of them was like a parkour whiz. And this guy, his name was William Spencer. And so he was discovered through his skateboard videos back in the day. And he would do these cool, like, skateboard videos with a little bit of entertainment value to them, or where he would like mimic different people or whatever, just put some personality into it. And so he got discovered through that. And I think that was the reason that they integrated more of the skateboard storyline into the Andrew Garfield version so that they could make use of William Spencer's skateboard and parkour stuff. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, the amount of stuff that these guys still do practically is insane. We were doing the sequence at Sony Studios where Spider-Man's supposed to jump off of this parking structure, and then he like shoots a web and gets caught right before he hits the bottom. They had a champion crane that was tied to him, but he literally jumped off of a 5-story parking structure at Sony Studios, and they let him free fall to about 15 feet off the ground or something like that before the thing caught him and swung him. And then they had people that were like waiting with pads so he didn't slam into the side of the parking structure. You know, I give a shout out to all the stunt people out there, what you do on a daily basis, putting your lives on the line so that we can be entertained. We thank you.
Keep it practical. Yeah.
Keep it practical. On that note, we wrap it up here. Keep it practical with indie films, because it's more expensive to do it digitally anyway.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time on the Indie Playbook.